Again, I know this isn't my usual format, but it's something that I think needs to get addressed. I keep hearing these social media comments where people will say that they have seen a horse collapse because of heat exhaustion in New York City, a carriage horse. And I don't understand how people are saying that they've definitely seen something that I know, I know for a fact, never actually happened. Now, in 1989, the regulations for carriage horses regarding their heat laws went into effect, that they don't work above 89 degrees. They've since been made a little more strict in recent years. I've talked about in other videos. But since that date, that's not something that has ever happened. Before that date, I'm sure it hadn't happened either, but I know there was a case in the 80s where a bunch of horses had gotten sick and heat was suspected but not proven. Whatever. 1989 on, we haven't had this happen. So why are people under this belief that they've seen it happen, whether in videos or pictures or in real life? There was that incident with Ryder that a lot of people think was attributed to heat, but it actually wasn't. Again, there's an upcoming court date for that, but I can't get into too many details until that's over. Other than that, how do people believe this keeps happening? So the only thing I could think of is that NYCLASS and PETA and some of these animal rights groups do have a few pictures and videos out there in the world of horses who have essentially tripped and gotten up uninjured and went about their lives like normal. But they will use this picture out of context and apply whatever false narrative they want to it. And that gets shared many times over on the internet over the years and gives people this false impression of what's really going on. So one of their poster children is Max, is seen in this freeze frame of this YouTube video here. And I'm going to show you their Facebook and Twitter, X, whatever banner where they, to this day, use this image. We're in 2025, and this is an incident that's not really an incident, but it happened in 2017. So here you can see that image. That's the one that gets plastered all over the internet. And let's talk about what's really going on here. I thought the best way to do that would be to read a press release that came out in February of 2017 from Christina Hansen, who's a carriage horse advocate and driver. She is still in the industry, but I thought that she gave a pretty concise description of what went on that day and what's behind that. The funny thing is, the zoomed out version has people in winter coats, and you still have people that believe this had something to do with heat or, the horse being sick or something like that. Again, that's not what happened. This occurred in February, when it's cold, 2017. So Christina says, if only children in New York City got as much oversight and attention as carriage horses. A little tumble that didn't even leave a scraped knee led to a conscientious carriage driver, several bystanders in the park, 4 NYPD mounted unit officers, 2 city agencies, DCA and DOH, and a licensed vet rushing to check on Max, the carriage horse, to make sure he was okay last week. Everything checked out fine, but that didn't stop a discredited animal rights group, NYCLASS, from trying to get their name in the papers once more. Carriage horse Max, who tripped and fell by Tavern on the Green last Tuesday morning, was back at the park today, having been cleared for work by the city health department. Max was just back from his city-mandated country vacation last week when he tripped and fell in Central Park. Photos taken by an unidentified bystander show him lying on his chest with his legs curled under him. His driver, Chris, a veteran carriage driver with 20 years' experience, quickly assessed the situation and determined that the harness needed to be undone so that Max could get his legs out from under him in order to stand up. A second photo shows Chris pushing the carriage back away from Max so the horse has room to get up. Max had to roll onto his side to straighten his legs and get them positioned properly to roll back on his chest and stand up. Another bystander had called 911. and an NYPD mounted unit officer arrived on the scene almost immediately. He inspected Max and could find no obvious injury. At that time, the officer also watched video provided by the bystander that showed Chris unhitching Max and helping him up. She told the officer that she did not witness the horse collapse. Chris got permission from the mounted unit officer to hitch Max back to the carriage and proceeded home to the stable to have his horse checked out. Chris was approached en route by two more officers that were mounted, responding to the incident, who also saw the horse was sound and moving well, as if nothing had happened. Chris returned to the stable, where he was met by an NYPD mounted unit officer who called the vet to examine Max. The vet examined Max and likewise didn't find any evidence of distress or injury. Out of abundance of caution and concern for the horse's welfare, the vet drew blood and advised that Matt not return to work until the test results came back normal. These results were all normal, and Max returned to work with Chris at Central Park today. Chris and Max were available at the park and the stable to show that Max is well. Carriage horse industry spokesperson Christina says that Chris informed her that Max had tripped the day after the incident. All of the procedures that a driver should do in this situation were followed out of care and concern for his horse. Chris followed everything to the letter and should be commended for his professionalism and care for the horse. The NYPD and Department of Health investigation found that Max is absolutely fine. Christina Hansen also notes that photos being circulated by NYCLASS can be taken out of context to upset viewers who might not realize that Max is okay. I find it interesting that NYCLASS appears not to be releasing the video that the bystander showed the police, or is otherwise ignoring that Max got quickly to his feet once he was unhitched. They've taken that moment Max rolled to his side and frozen it in a still picture as if that were the whole story. It's not. The story is that the horse tripped, fell, he was helped by his driver, examined by NYPD and a vet, and found to be fine. NYCLASS, in a bid to get headlines again after their proposed carriage horse ban has been abandoned by City Council, is calling for an independent investigation of Max's trip and fall that resulted in no injury. That's absurd, says Hansen. There's already been an independent investigation by the city. The Mounted Police Force Unit, equine experts, and law enforcement working with a licensed vet and the Department of Health have corroborated that the horse tripped, fell, and was unhurt. They cleared Max for work as healthy and fit. Further, an abundance of outside equine veterinarians, horse advocacy groups, and media outlets have all independently investigated the carriage industry over the past several years and found it to be safe, humane, well-regulated, and in exact contrast to NYCLASS's many false allegations. So there you have it. A horse stumbled, was down a couple of minutes, got up unharnessed, got up uninjured when he was unharnessed, is fine. The horse and the driver probably never second thought it again after that. I believe he has been retired since then, but after this incident, he went back to work like normal. This horse wasn't hurt, he wasn't sick, and yet NYCLASS still uses this picture of this 2-second incident. I mean, I'm exaggerating 2 seconds, but a few minutes incident that was a non-incident over all these years, and their followers just eat it up, and it's so ridiculous to me. And groups like this do this to carriage horse industries all over. There are so many non-incidents that they blow up like this because the fact is they don't have real incidents. They don't have many actual, proof to support this agenda against the carriage industry, so they have to fabricate stories like this. They have to apply them out of context pictures and videos and, make up this false narrative that doesn't exist, because the fact is there's no reason not to support this industry. These accidents and incidents and things they talk about are extremely rare, and these horses are living good lives. Horses can and do trip and fall all over the place, with carriages, without carriages. Incident had nothing to do with New York City, nothing to do with being a carriage horse, But here, when it's a New York City carriage horse, it makes the news, despite how often this may occur everywhere else in the world. Just a non-incident being exploited in the news.